Everybody loves grapplers, right? You get in close to such an opponent, full of hopes to land normals and start a cool combo, but that person grabs you, throws you into the air, hits you in the process, and smashes you onto the ground. And when you think the nightmare is over, and you try to return to your elegant defense, they grab you again and repeat the process. No, don't look at your health bar. You don't want to see that damage. Well, it feels like everyone rather hates grapplers. They are scary and annoying. So why not just play them instead? It sounds like fun at first, but there are definitely some downsides to compensate for those advantages. We at DashFight love digging deep into various fundamental aspects of fighting games. We did that with the whole phenomenon of the character archetypes in a dedicated video. Have you seen it? And now feels like a good time to highlight the pros and cons of a specific archetype, the grappler. There are some pretty substantial reasons why fighting game players openly hate such characters, or rather they hate to face them in a match. The hatred is most often based on a somewhat disrespectful approach of grapplers. And for quite a few grappler players, that somewhat turns out to be full and absolutely disrespectful. Look, there are just some general kinds of rules or traditions in fighting games. Someone tries to be cautious and they block, emphasize defense, look for a moment to deliver their opening hit. Someone is more offensive, rushing towards their opponents, trying to mix them up with a swift stream of attack options. Then we have elaborate combos to burn that health bar. And then the match continues, following around the same patterns. And what do grapplers do? They often just ignore everything and stubbornly play their own game. You want to be cautious? I don't care. Here's my command grab. Eat damage. You want to impress me with those quick rushdown tricks? Weak. I'll get my moment, you know, with a grab, so you will eat damage again. This disrespect is especially pronounced for middle level players. It's like getting adapted to a game you play to a specific extent, but then meeting a bully who totally destroys you. And your good strategies, they don't work. It's a valuable lesson, all right, to help you grow as a player, break your limits, and learn how to deal with such opponents. But it feels so bad and so unfair to be in that scenario. The developers don't make the experience less bitter. They make grabbing animations so long and so painful. So, we should move from the opponent's perspective to grapplers themselves. This level of disrespect and emotional destruction is one of the advantages you get from playing the archetype. Do you like the idea of bringing a huge salt shaker to your matches and making the opponent feel their L to the deepest degree? Grapplers can give you that. Sure, not all grappler players do that, at least on purpose, but you rarely have something of this sort with other types of characters. That towering, muscled beast, they even look like huge, annoying bullies. Just breathe. I need to just breathe. Would you like to talk about other, more practical advantages? Grapplers have some. Their health is higher than other archetypes. It's essential for their disrespectful behavior. Let those rushdown characters be arrogant for a while. A grappler can afford to take some hits. For example, to lure the opponent into a trap of those close distance attacks. This is not too much, and even disrespect has some limits, but this airbag for your safety is here to enjoy. For grapplers, mistakes are far less punishing than for, let's say, a glass cannon character. The next pretty serious advantage is the amount of damage they give. It's a bit of an annoyance part too. While other characters have to work hard, linking their attacks and executing combos, a grappler deals similar damage by just grabbing you and throwing you on the ground. It is a good thing for grappler players though. There's nothing complicated, and most of their effective attacks are concentrated into just a few moves. This leads us to the next point. Grapplers normally have pretty straightforward movesets. No super tricky scenarios are needed. Opponent blocks, punish them for this with a grab. They try to approach you, a grappler has an empty jump with another special command grab in their pocket. Of course, some training is still needed. The developers may want to make input more complicated, like 360p for Potemkin Buster in Guilty Gear Strive. But in general, long combos with a super as an ender, then clever Oki on Wake Up, grapplers don't need to bother too much with this stuff. And the damage they make? Oh, we've discussed that already. As for the input part, may modern controls in fighting games be more beneficial for grapplers? We discussed simplified inputs in a dedicated video, and it would be great to know your opinion on this topic. In a nutshell, we have a super dangerous type of fighter with a lot of health, big damage, straightforward patterns, who effectively destroy opponents even on the emotional level. Sounds like a lot of fun. Now it's time to move to the downside of this fighting archetype. Grapplers definitely have some disadvantages, and it would be fair to start with the most prominent one. You know, when you have a simple but effective tool, and it brings you easy and enjoyable results, why step beyond this comfort zone and learn something else? Grapplers have this trap. You bully beginners and mid-level opponents, but then you eventually meet a high-ranking player who knows well how to deal with your character. They exploit their weaknesses, and suddenly, you're not winning anymore. To overcome this disadvantage, you need to make a conscious effort and lab with grapplers as much as with any other character. Perhaps not relying strictly on the bully approach is also a good idea. The trap is not that dangerous if you know about it and take active steps not to fall into it. Downsides from a more practical standpoint are like the evil twin brothers of the advantages. Slow motion speed is a payment for the big health and significant damage. Your character is huge physically, so it's logical that they move slowly, which is not a good feature to have, as those grabs obviously work face to face with the victim. The great size also makes them easier to hit. Slow attacks are another disadvantage from the same vein. Their frame data is quite often full of long startups and recoveries. By the way, we have a video on frame data, so go check it out and learn about this important aspect of fighting games. But back to grapplers, if an opponent knows what's going on with such characters, you will have trouble with them. Slow motions and slow attacks make up a big issue, and a grappler player has to figure out how to deal with it. Matchup-wise, grapplers are not invincible. Zoners have tools to deal with that close-range power, and with that slow speed, the threat becomes more than real. What should Zangief do against Ryu when he spams Hadouken, or against Guile with his Sonic Boom? Okay, spamming is not a thing that works against experienced players, but this exaggeration shows the disadvantage of grapplers versus zoners. To add one more thing, let's look at grapplers' advantage of having a simple, straightforward approach from a slightly different angle. Doesn't it sound boring in the long run? You're kind of stuck to a specific game plan with limited creative options. A simple kit also means that it will be easy for opponents to understand if they try to. No, it's not universally bad. It is what it is. All the players are different, and not everyone is up to such a style. To summarize the disadvantages, we would just say that grapplers are slow, in many ways, with poor ranged options and simplified approaches. Also, this general reputation of being the most hated fighting archetype does not work well for grapplers. The developers listen to their communities quite often, and when people complain about something, I mean complain a lot, the companies tend to release nerfs. Grapplers are regular victims of this. The nerfs occur even at the stage of creating a game, as the developers generally know what their players want. Still, grapplers stay strong, as they should. If this is a fighter for you, forget those weaknesses. And the hatred, it's one more reason to teach them a lesson. How can you understand if such a character is good for you? Just enjoying the matches with a character is arguably the most important aspect to pay attention to. Do you play grapplers? Are you annoyed by them? Please let us and the community know in the comments. For more info on grapplers, other archetypes, or just fighting games in general, please visit DashFight.com. We'll see you there and in the next video. And of course, on the fighting grounds. Get ready to get grabbed.